Hey Internet, Worldview Everlasting Dropkick here. He is risen indeed, and for the next 50 days in many churches, the second reading will be a selection of excerpts running through the book of Revelation, a series of high points in John's vision of what the death and resurrection of Jesus means from heaven's own perspective. Next week, the Fix will be back on Tuesday taking up Revelation chapter 5, but we didn't want to entirely skip over this week's chapter 1 that sets the whole thing up as John the Apostle, in the Spirit, which I think means reading the Old Testament scriptures on the Lord's Day, which is clearly Sunday, the day that he rose, John is visited by his risen and ascended Lord. And the image is so stark and frightening that he falls down as one dead. A voice like a trumpet and like the rushing of the waters of a great fall speaks to him, and he turns and he sees a man glistening in white and gold, with eyes like fire and feet like the sun, both ancient and young at the same time, both terrible and good. This man stands amid 7 sources of light, and he holds in his hand 7 stars, and he says to John, "Get up. You know who I am. I died, but I'm alive forever. I own death now. So get up and write to those who believe on me that which I tell you." So the book begins, but don't miss the one verse that the lectionary cuts out. In verse 20 of chapter 1, Jesus himself gives you the key to the rest of the book. See, many people today say, we only read the Bible literally, but by that they assume the Bible's meaning before they even start. So what if in reading the Bible you find Jesus saying something like, "Don't read the next thing I say literally"? And that's exactly what happens in chapter 1, verse 20. He says, "See these burning lights around me and see these stars? They aren't lights or stars at all. They are 7 congregations and 7 ordained messengers, which you, John, my apostle, oversee as their elder." So right off the bat, you have Jesus himself telling you that parts of the book of Revelation are not literal at all. He says, look, these lamps and stars are apocalyptic symbols, hidden codes from the Old Testament by which you may write a letter, John, out of this prison, warning the Christians out there about the persecution of Caesar, which they are about to face, and you can do this without your guards thinking it is anything more than a fantasy. And so the book does begin like this, and it makes much more sense to read the book this way than the so-called literal reading that's all about Apache helicopters and the UN one world nation that you hear about from TV Christianity. And isn't it funny that the same teachers who always insist on the Antichrist lurking underneath every political development with their literal readings, nonetheless also insist on the unliteral reading of "This is my body"? But hey, who's looking for consistency, right? Well, the answer to that is you. And you want it more than ever in the pulpit that preaches the words of your God to you. So find a good pulpit this Eastertide and drink up the wonder of who Jesus is and what he's done for you. And make sure you tune back into the Fix over the next few weeks for more keys to understanding the book of Revelation. Hey, rock on.